So we're just on time. So good evening, everyone. We have still some questions to do. And then next month, we have two more question and answer sessions before having a break for the summer. So there's space for a few more questions if anyone wants to send something in. So there is a question about, with the practice of Dzogchen, whether art and music are an obstacle or can they be useful? Generally, in our culture, art and music are in the category of entertainment. They're a way of relaxing, a distraction from some of the burdens and responsibilities of daily life. And of course, in the culture, the artist takes on a special status, someone with special gifts. If you don't have the talent, generally you're not encouraged to pursue any of the arts, because art is also captured inside the binary structures of hierarchical progression. Now, in Dzogchen, we are not really focused on any product. We are concerned to be present without being carried away by whatever is arising. We're not trying to make something special, something that will be of enduring value. As soon as special value is invested in any object, that object is displaced from the field within which it manifests. And this can become an obstacle to seeing and to hearing precisely what is occurring, because it carries the idea that some forms of visual forms, plastic forms like sculpture, and sound forms like music are of more importance than other forms. But these kind of hierarchies are based on commodification. And we know there's a huge international art market where tens of millions of pounds are paid for one painting, so that the painting by Picasso or some famous painter becomes a vehicle for value, for monetary value, rather than being the disclosure of aesthetic value. But of course, we have a body, a voice, and a mind. And the body is involved in artistic activity. Art, the word art for English is linked to artificial. It means, in that sense, the opposite of intrinsic. Something is being created. However, if we are going to survive in life, we have to eat some food. And if we don't just want to eat leaves, we tend to cook it. Cooking is a form of compounding. We are creating something by bringing different elements together. Talking is also a form of compounding. We're bringing together the rhythms of speech, the articulation that allows the sounds that we make to be comprehensible to other people. So art is our life. We are artisans creating the specific patterning of our experience moment by moment. So for meditators, the question is not what have I created, but who is the creator? Who is the doer? This is our mind itself. The mind moves and our energy manifests into the world. The whole of samsara is the movement of the mind. Everyone is a creator, because we can see the creation of our lives, about how the rooms where we live are set out, the kind of clothes we wear, and so on. So on one level, we can say, I am creating this. The problem with that formulation is that it sounds as if I have already been created. I am existing prior to this moment of manifestation. But as many of us have looked many times, we don't know how we are going to be even in 5 minutes' time. That is to say, I arise as part of the disclosure, part of the display, which is an ingredient of the creative moment. And indeed, by cooking or gardening or flower arranging or painting, there is a double move that inasmuch as I create this appearance, I am creating myself. If we are taking weeds out of the ground, we have to bend, we rock forward and back on our knees and so on. Playing the guitar, gardening, cooking, these are co-creations. According to the guitar, we play it in this particular way. According to the ingredients we are cooking, we are chopping or frying, whatever. So the art, or the areas of our culture we call art, are simply another aspect of the co-emergence of subject and object. Now, if we don't solidify or reify subject and object and imagine that somehow they are pointing to some truly existing essence, then we find that subject and object are simply pointing to the patterns of this moment. The flow of this experience is ceaseless and it doesn't establish anything. So if we stay present in any activity, whether it's given high cultural status or low cultural status, presence in the moment is the dissolving of the fixed duality of inside and outside. It's very important to have the dignity of respecting our own lives. If you are cleaning the shower or scrubbing the floor, this is the movement of your illusory body in an illusory world. Like a magical apparition, your body is responding with the expressions of pressure and circular movements or straight movements according to circumstances. In our practice, the basis of dignity is not some cultural attribution that everybody agrees this is a very important activity. Our dignity is our presence, and our presence is possible in every event, in every arena of life. With presence, everything is pure Dharma practice. Without presence, even reading out Dharma books is not Dharma. So the key thing is always, what is my motivation? If I want to be fully here, open, allowing the field of experience to flow through me because I am part of that field of experience, then everything we touch, everything we hear, everything we smell and taste has the exquisite value of being just this. The central point of our practice is to rest in the openness of the mind. When we get fascinated by the seeming power of the object, the bright, shining, illuminating quality of awareness is lost touch with as we collapse into the fixity of our subject self. Everything has value for awareness because it is the clarity of awareness or the showing or the illumination of awareness. But if we are in a dualistic consciousness, we are almost inevitably pulled into judgment and bias and the attribution of differential value. So whatever we do, if we are fully present and aware, then it's a part of our Dharma path. So, next question is, since rigpa or awareness is uncompounded, does it have self-essence or other qualities? The short answer to this is that it doesn't have it doesn't have any qualities of its own, qualities which could define it as being something. But we always come back to these three linked functions, that the mind is open. It's empty of anything which could be found, which could be grasped at or held onto. If you look for it, you can't find it because it's not there as something, but it is there as nothing. Because this nothing is not a dead nothing. It is the plenum void, the full void, which, although being empty of self, is full of the display of the images of clarity. And within this display, we are moving and connecting. So when we describe these three in terms of Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nirmanakaya, the Nirmanakaya manifests from the pure land of the Sambhogakaya, which becomes available when one awakens to the mind of the Buddha, the Dharmakaya. So when you look for your mind and you can't find it, I look and I look and I look, but everything I seem to find vanishes because it was just the idea of something. Then one day we see fully, deeply, completely, I am not a thing. I am not a self. I, the brightness of this awareness, which shines in the openness of the mind, I illuminate this moment of revelation. And within this empty appearance, this apparition, this illusion is moving with the other illusions. As long as I believe that I am a self, I will imagine that I am knowable. Because I am like this, there are some things I do and some things I don't do. But the more we see my mind is open, there is no fixed reference point, which is the truth of I, me, myself. Then there is no defined, reliable, predictable essence of me, which is there prior to this moment. Then, oh, I am emergent. I am emergent according to circumstances. So, for example, at the moment, I'm looking at this screen in front of me. I'm stuck with a big picture of myself. I find I don't particularly want to look at it. So from time to time, I recognize, James, your eyes have closed. You're supposed to be talking to people. Open your eyes. If we were all there in one room, my eyes would be looking around at people. But because I'm looking at a screen, the mood of the co-emergence of me being with you is a little bit thin. So all of us have these experiences as we move through our day. Different situations bring forth our potential in different modes. This richness of our potential as it moves in relation to the field has no limit to it. But when we lack the remembrance, the presence of ourself as part of the field, then we become enclosed in the shell of the remembrance of myself as me. And remembering that I am me, I immediately restrict the arena of my potential. So this is something we can all experience for ourselves. When you are open, when you are available, you find you have much more scope for responding than when you are anxiously self-preoccupied. So the qualities of awareness, what in Sanskrit is called the svabhava, or the self-being, is the display of clarity, according to Dzogchen. So the quality of my open awareness is all this. Now, I don't know how all this is going to be. So all this is not a personal quality of awareness. It's not a definitional aspect of awareness. It is a revelatory aspect of this. Just as with the example some of us have looked at many times, the mirror always has reflections. The reflection is a quality of the mirror because it's mirrors that can show reflections. Walls don't do that, paintings don't do that. But the reflection doesn't tell you, doesn't define or tell you about a true essence of the mirror. So when you experience this for yourself, although in the course of the day you speak with different accents, you're close to some people, not so close to others, many different forms arise. And it's undeniable that this is indeed the range of my experience today. This is how the potential of which I am part has expressed itself. But none of these forms is truly definitional of a self. This is a little bit similar to this Greek notion of the Pandora's box or Pandora's jar. Once it comes out of the box, it's very difficult to put it back in. It's not that our awareness is a fixed box, but that the seeming sight of the emergence of myself in this moment is revealed just here, like this, and then it's gone. And now I'm emerging from something else, with something else. We're always emerging from this ungraspable empty ground. We are uncatchable, ungraspable. And yet, moment by moment, we are exquisitely, precisely just this. So, in that sense, the quality of awareness is all that is revealed. It is revelation, not definition. Okay, so then what to do with tantric practice commitments when now a person wants to do guru yoga and Dzogchen? Is it necessary to finish the ngöndro? If you buy a bus ticket and then somebody gives you a plane ticket, you have one body, so either you go in the plane or on the bus. So you're going on the plane. You don't have to hold your bus ticket in your hand when you're on the plane. So we say there are many Dharma paths. So if you are following a Dharma path, and it's a good Dharma path, you're not insulting the other Dharma paths by following this one. But you might want to reflect that when you began doing, for example, the tantric preliminary practice, and you decided, this is what I really want to do, perhaps because you made this commitment with some very important shining lama, but then later you find you don't want to do it. This is probably not the first time in your life you have been unreliable. It seemed a good idea at the time, but as the Buddha said, everything is impermanent. This is why we have divorce. The Catholic Church is not very fond of divorce. Better to have an unhappy marriage. You keep your vow, you do a practice you don't want to do. From the point of view of Dzogchen, divorce is better. You can have a hostile divorce or a friendly divorce, a guilty divorce or a hopeful divorce. What you do need is some kind of humility so that you learn something about why you're having a divorce. I will love you forever. I will practice to save all sentient beings in this and all my future lives. Small people shouldn't use big words. So that means you have to stop being a small person. Who is the one who says, I will always do this? if this is the little ego, it's not going to be able to carry through. The ego self is part of this dyad of subject and object. It's unstable. So we do what we can. We should respect our capacity. We should work at our growing edge, the opening edge of our new possibilities. It's much better to promise a little and do a lot than to promise a lot and do a little. So it's always possible to give your vows back. You just to light a candle and offer it to the Buddha. But the key thing is to use the opportunity to understand that the content of your mind is always changing. Because the danger is then that you think, no, I will use all my willpower, all my decision power to make a clear statement. But that is the energy of the ego. We have to remember that the Buddha, when he was Siddhartha, he was a divorcee. And we Buddhists are very glad he got divorced, because then he climbed over the wall and went to meditate, and through that became enlightened. So when we take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. We take refuge in the guru and the meditation deity and the dakinis. And we take refuge in the Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nimanakaya. These are all ideas. But this 10th refuge is I take refuge in my own mind, not in ideas about my mind, but in my mind. I have to open to my mind as it is. This is the one commitment that is truly sad to break. If you rest in open awareness, you won't get distracted. As soon as your attention coalesces, comes to turn around a point, an emergent point, such as a memory or an intention, then you have strayed from the mind itself. The thought is not other than the mind, just as the reflection is not other than the mirror, but because you are fixated on the reflection as something of value, your own enthusiasm for it and commitment to it is functionally alienating you from the unborn openness of the mind itself. So don't take refuge in ideas. Relax into the unborn mind. And then all the vows will be completed automatically. Then here is a different kind of question. Is being trans an obstacle to practicing vajrayana, and how to deal with prejudice? This is a very contested area at the moment. If somebody feels that the gender they had at their birth is no longer fitting for them, and they decide to live in another way, and this feels like an absolute infinite necessity, and they settle into their new identity, then it's not a major problem for practice. However, if you have a reassignment surgery, which could be the removal of the penis and the testes, or the development of an artificial penis if you're going in the other direction, then this is quite a complicated surgery, and damage can happen to the nerves, and it can affect the energy pathways in the body, because usually the hormone balance has to be adjusted by taking altering hormones. And the hormones are part of the communicative system of the body. So this will affect how your vital energy circulates in the body. But of course, if you're living in a body and you hate your body and you think you're in the wrong body all the time, this kind of self-persecutory mental reflection is going to be very disturbing until you do something. When systems of interpretation are formulated, they seem to provide a clarity. So, in many schools of Buddhism at a certain historical period, they would believe very clearly you cannot get enlightened in a female body. And of course, the people who came to this conclusion in general had male bodies. So perhaps this can encourage us not to be too dogmatic about any kind of interpretation of the potential of a situation. Rather than thinking about what the book says or the map says, we should inhabit the territory. We should sit and do the practice and try to integrate our circumstances, however they are, into our practice. And the second part of the question is very important: how to deal with the prejudice you experience from others. Prejudice arises from ignorance. The anxious ego wants to have definite knowledge. And so it holds on to fabricated ideas as if they were fundamental truths. So you can have prejudice towards people on the basis of the color of their skin or their height, or whether you see them as having a disability or a deformity. All of these systems are simply conventional. So, for example, in Russia, in 1910, there were very many big landowning families, people with wonderful titles, big wealthy farmers. These were the successful high status people. But by 1920, their position was becoming very insecure. Following the revolution, the leading family, the Romanovs, were shot in a basement. The great landowners were beaten and thrown out of their palaces. The rich farmers were beaten, and poor peasants were promoted. So in the new Soviet system, the peasant became the person with high status, and the lord and the lady became the people with low status. In that way, we can see that the basis of prejudice is unstable. It's not resting on some definite truth, but on a patterning of interpretation. But if you find yourself experiencing prejudice, it's very painful. Other people are acting as if they knew who you truly were, as if your total value as a sentient being could be measured in terms of your color, the shape of your body, and so on. Prejudice arises from knowability, which is an aspect of ignorance. So the best way to deal with prejudice is to free your own mind from prejudice. Because if somebody hates you because of what they perceive as your characteristics, if you then hate them back because of what you feel are their characteristics, then there is no progress. To hate racists doesn't take us very far. For meditators, we have to see in our own mind how we can get trapped and lost in the consolidation of mental energy into fixed positions. When this happens, your open potential is disguised by the narrowing into your personal potential. So, perhaps the best, for meditators at least, the best way to deal with prejudice is to understand that this is just another flowering of the poisonous weed of ignorance, and to use the narrowness of the positioning of other people as a reminder to relax and open your own awareness. Okay, so now how to know if you are on the path? Well, A path is designed to take you from one place to another. If you were going for a walk in the country, you would notice that you are passing the agricultural fields and walking towards a wood. So first of all, you have to find out something about your path. Generally, the Mahayana path is directed in terms of the wisdom of emptiness and compassion for all sentient beings. So if you are grasping at the phenomena of the world as if they were real entities, and you are always classifying people in terms of their interest for you as a person, then probably you're not making much progress. And if you're doing a tantric practice and the instruction is to see everything that occurs as a part of the mandala of the deity, and you see things as solidly real, then probably you're not making much progress. You have to look at the view of the vehicle, the yana that you're studying and practicing, and it will tell you the guidelines for that particular path. Each of these paths has guidelines. If you become a monk and you're always checking out the shape of women's bodies, then you're not doing very well on that path. So you simply have to follow the logic of the view, the meditation, and the activity. For each of these yanas or vehicles, it's completely aligned. So the second part of this question is, am I attuning with the teachings in the right way? So we have these three stages of listening or studying, and then reflecting and applying the teaching to our life, and then finally meditating and integrating. So you need to study and help your mind to be clear. For example, if there is a key text, you might want to copy it out by hand. In Tibetan monasteries, hundreds of pages of Dharma texts were recited every day. And this helps to make us familiar with the understanding. And then we can see, how does this fit with my world? All compounded things are impermanent. Nowadays, we are lucky. You can look on your computer and you see historical pictures of the town you live in. So you see, oh, although my town has always had the same name for 300 years, the shape of the town has always been changing. We have to remember, Dharma is not magic. It's like cream. You have to massage it into yourself. You have to apply it to yourself so that you can absorb it. So you have to make sure that you understand the view. In Dzogchen, the view is the most important, because if you look in the right way, then you can see. If you look in the wrong way, you won't see what you want to see. Normally, we look at the world through the dark glasses of our assumptions and beliefs and interpretive concepts. And then we see what we know. We adjust what we see to fit in with our habitual interpretive categories. But when we start to see in a naked way, then what is seen and the seeing are not two functions. Then you have the immediacy of the revelation as object and the revelation as subject in non-duality. So this is why we study these texts again and again. Because if you see how you blind yourself, you can untie the blindfold. You are not actually blind, but if you have a blindfold over your eyes, it is as if you are blind. So in Dzogchen, you can start to observe yourself. When you get angry with someone, how do they appear to you? When you, instead of just being intoxicated by the anger, if you put the light on a little bit and you observe how the world looks when I'm angry, then we see, oh, I am obscuring myself through merging in the passion of anger. Looking with anger, all your faults become clear to me. I know what's wrong with you. Oh, but everything is illusion. But you're a shit. And it's not an illusory shit because you stink. Then we see, oh, how blind I am. And, and this is the blindness of the imagination. I don't see you, I start to imagine you. When I see you, you are moving and speaking. Moment by moment, you're changing. But when I see you with my imagination, I create an image of you. And now I have definite, enduring knowledge of you. So this is how we can really know if we are on a path, because we are engaging with the difficult task of making our obscurations and our beliefs less interesting for ourselves. We start to prefer the fresh to the familiar. And the more we go down this line, the more we see, oh, the familiar is actually fresh. So we have to be able to see. And that means to pay attention to what is occurring, not to get distracted, just to stay with what is arising, not going after the past experience, not waiting for the future experience. You can read this again and again in the Dharma books, but it's only when you really try to engage with this and open to it that you see, oh, this is difficult. And it's difficult because I want to be enlightened and I want to stay me. Now, most things about ourselves we don't have to change. The one thing that we do have to change is to grasp onto what is occurring as if it was inherently real. That is to say, our life can continue, we eat what we eat, we wear what we wear, we talk to the people, whoever we talk to. These are all patterns of phenomena. But when you see that everything is like a dream, like an illusion, like a rainbow, then you can keep it light because it is light. We make the world dark and heavy. You have to see this for yourself. This is what you do. To say this is not an insult, it's a friendly reminder to help us to see we make life very difficult by imagining that it's solid and real and that we are burdened and imprisoned by the shape of things. This is just how it is. Usually, when we say this, we mean this is how I take it to be. There is this, and there is this as I take it to be. And because this, as I take it to be, it seems to be the truth, seems to be normal, then we don't see what we're doing. But try to use other people as your supportive sangha. So when you hear people or read about people who are, for example, very prejudiced, and you hear them saying that this ethnic group or this religious group is inferior because they are like this, then we see how dense that group of people is being made. They are being injected with cement. They are becoming solid. They are becoming dense with the projection of interpretations and assumptions. For example, in Britain, there's now more awareness about racial prejudice. And often on the radio, I hear people telling their stories. And you hear people saying things like, I thought I was just me until someone told me I was black. So the child is just running around and being a child. And then it encounters the force of this concept being projected and injected into it. There is a definition: you are black. And then there are conclusions which come from this. And therefore, you shouldn't go to this school, or you can't become a doctor, or there are many things which are not possible because you are black. So what we can see in this example is that the color of the skin somehow is, through the concept of being black, sinks into the person until it becomes the defining essence of who they are. And then the phenomenal presencing, or the showing of the color, becomes inseparable from the concept of blackness in a pejorative sense that is put into the person. We can see this activity of intense definition of the other and of self occurring in all the countries in the world. Many people believe that snakes are bad, so they want to kill the snakes because the snake is bad. And it's bad because it might bite me. So we know many creatures have been destroyed in this world because of fear. Snakes are snakes. Very few snakes are proactively aggressive. If you go into where they are, they might get upset and come for you. So it helps to be aware. You can see the potential of the snake to be dangerous, but that doesn't make it bad. So in this way, you can start to see that your own, the content of your own mind, your culturally received beliefs and ideas and interpretations of history and so on, become a veil to seeing the immediate actuality of what is here. And this is the heart of the meditation. Thoughts have no substance to them, and yet they can appear so powerful, so overwhelming when we, on you go, when we get caught up in them. So this is why we meditate, to observe both the moments of our openness and our calm spaciousness, and then how we get lost. The one who gets caught is a thought. Awareness is not a thought. So if what is arising and revealed in the field of awareness is identified with, then you lose awareness, even although this thought has no substance. Therefore, again and again, we relax, we release our merging tendency into the thought. And this gives us more and more experience of the mind as open, empty, and spacious. This is the primordial purity of the mind. And then arising within this instantly is this, the immediate clarity of the field of disclosure. It's here and it's empty. Emptiness and appearance are not opposites. And then we start really to live the Dharma. And sometimes the mind is dull. It's difficult to have any clarity. At that time, it's important to remember not to enter into judgment, not to blame yourself, not to try harder, but, but just sit for a short period of time, even 2 minutes. You can begin with the 3 R's, and you just open to dullness. You're like a mirror in a dark room. The mirror shows darkness, but it's showing. If you know your mind is dull, the mirror of awareness is showing the dullness. So stay present with however it is. So now we have come to the end for today. And for those who are interested, this weekend we have some teaching which will have an Italian translation, and then next month we will have 3 Wednesday evenings, 2 of question and answer and 1 on a topic. Okay, so this is the end. Goodbye. See you again, perhaps. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, James.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, and
Hi, James. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
to our
James.
translator.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Bye-bye.
Bye.